Hey guys, I'm back again with my ProSC10 to do a more detailed video of the parts I changed and the rationale for why I changed them. And quite simply, it's to answer the question why. Because I was asked, well, why did you take a relatively good truck and tear off all the parts and put on a bunch of specifically 6.1 series parts? Because the the SC6.2 and the T6.2, they have new suspension arms. The Stadium does. I'm not sure if the short course does, but there's been some changes. These parts are specifically 6.1 series parts. So anyway, let's get into it. So I got the wheels off here so you can get a bit of a closer look at the parts that are on the truck. So I'm going to show you the parts that are on the truck, and then if you look at the table here, I have the original ProSC10 parts and 6.1 series parts to compare and contrast and explain what the parts do that I added to the truck. If you understand what they do, you'll understand why I did it. So all right, up front here, we can see the SC6.1 A-arm. We can see the caster block. We can see the steering block. And one of the things that I'll point out while we're looking at the caster block and steering block here is these bushings, top and bottom. These are called caster hat bushings. And what they do is they allow you to move your steering block up and down within the caster block like this. There's 3 millimeters of adjustment. So when you have the steering block at the bottom of the caster block, you have 3 millimeters above the steering block, right up in this gap here. When you have the 3 millimeter shim underneath, or caster hat bushing underneath the steering block, it raises it up like that. So why does that matter? Why did I do that? Why do I want that adjustability option on my ProSC10? Before I answer that, let's have a quick look at how the steering block rides in the caster block for the factory original parts. So it does have that spacing. And when you get this truck, I believe out of the box, it's just centered inside the caster block. You don't have caster hat bushings that come with it like you do when you purchase a 6 series kit. All right. So that's one reason why I wanted to use the 6 series caster block and steering block, so I could adjust my front steering block or front axle up and down. So simply put, in pretty generic terms here without getting too outside of my or above my pay grade, I know some stuff. I know enough to get myself in trouble. I am by no means a master tuner. I still get tons of help from the guys here in New Brunswick. But here's what I can tell you. Why does this adjustment matter? If you look at setup sheets for high grip versus low grip, in low grip situations, you want everything brought down. So your rear hubs are brought down, your front axles are brought down. So you would run the caster or the steering block at the bottom of the caster block, and you put your 3 millimeter shim above and 1 millimeter below. So I want that adjustability. I want to be able to get my front axles down as low into the caster block as I can to create more steering. Okay. Next, if we look at the caster block in more detail here, the ball stud has 2 locations, so you can run shorter or longer camber lengths. Outdoors, not really a big deal. I'd be running a short camber length, so the ball stud, there's 2 holes up here to move the ball stud to lengthen the upper camber length for camber gain. So outdoors, it's pretty much the only place I'm ever going to run it. If I was to run this in high grip, I might change it, but I've got another car for high grip. So but there's another adjustment feature in the 6 series caster block that is not in the ProSC10 caster block. So we take the ProSC10 caster block and we look at the ProSC10 front arm. There, if I was to put a hinge pin in here, and of course I grabbed the wrong hinge pin, I grabbed a rear one. So we'll just go back to the caster blocks here. This caster block is from the ProSC10. And you'll notice that there's a hole for the hinge pin that locates it into the front A-arm. There's no adjustment. If you look at the 6 series caster block, the hole is quite large. The reason why the hole is large is because it is all kinds of adjustable. And it's adjustable with these inserts. These inserts help with kick-up angle. If you're running a bulkhead in the 25-degree configuration, then you would run a 5-degree caster block insert to get a total of 30 degrees of kick-up angle. You can't do any of that with the ProSC10 factory caster block. Only one ball stud location and no adjustment for caster angle to increase or decrease your overall kick-up angle. So that's why the 6 series caster blocks are there. Adjustability. We can adjust the kick-up angle, we can adjust the ball stud location, and I can adjust my steering block location. While we're talking about steering blocks, the 6 series cars and trucks come with 2 steering blocks. This steering block has 4R. This steering block has 3. And if you look at how they're made, the 4 here is shaped differently than the 3. What these do is these move the steering blocks forward or back for wheelbase. So you can increase or decrease your wheelbase with these. Now, I've not experimented with these. I've not done anything with these. The kit setup is 4. I've only ever run 4, but it would have something to do with adding or removing steering from the car. So another option you have with the 6 series parts that you don't have with the 5 series parts. All right. Next, let's look at front arms. Let's compare and contrast front arms. Here's the ProSC. Oh, sorry, there was one more adjustment. ProSC10 caster block, ProSC10 arm. The caster block fits in the arm. There's no adjustment. There's no gap. We talked about caster angle and changing the insert. Well, there's another adjustment. You can shim your caster block into the front of your steering arm. There's actually some play there. See that back and forth? So typically your kit setup is going to call for a 1 millimeter shim behind the caster block. So again, changing wheel length, I got to look into that one more. But that is another adjustment available that's not available on the 5 series parts. Okay, sticking with the arms. The ProSC10 arm only has 2 locations for the shock, where the 6 series has 3 holes. So inside, middle, outside. The other thing that the 6 series arms has is a location for the hardware and linkage for sway bars. Not an option on the ProSC10 arm. That's it for the front. Now, moving to the back, I talked about the C and D blocks for the ProSC10. So out of the box, the ProSC10 comes with this plastic molded C block. And you can see 3 plus 2 on the C block. If you want to change your anti-squat or toe, this entire block needs to be removed from the chassis. There's a screw there that holds it in place. It's quite a job to do that. You have to disassemble most of the rear end to get this done. These are aluminum C&D block. They're not from a SC6.1. Well, actually, they're all the same. The SC6.1, the B6.1, the T6.1, these are the same. But they're not compatible with this truck. I'm showing them just for illustration purposes. So, this is a C block for the 6 series. This is that plastic molded 5 series part. So you'll notice there's some holes here. Those holes are for inserts. So here are the inserts. The inserts have a dot on them. I've colored that one black. That one too. They come in 1 or half. And you just pop these in and out of the C block rather than replacing the entire C block. So the C block stays bolted to the chassis, and you just simply slide these inserts in, and changing the location of that little black dot changes the amount of toe or anti-squat. So this truck has the 5 version of the aluminum C block, so that I can just change these pills rather than actually having to remove this entire thing. So that's why I changed this. Convenience, ease of setup, and more adjustability. This ties me into straight 3 degrees of toe and 2 degrees of anti-squat. With these pills, there's actually a neat pill calculator on Team Associates' website. These pills give you not infinite, but a lot more options just by swapping out the pills. Okay, so that's the C and the D block. Next, rear arm. So the rear arms, just like the front arms, the rear arm here, this is the ProSC10 rear arm. It only has 2 slots, 2 holes, 2 locations for the shock. It does, however, have room to put on anti-roll bars and the hardware. This is the 6.1 series arm. They have built-in swept. That's their right and left. And as far as shock locations go, there's 4 different locations, A, B, C, and D. So this hole, the arm, as you can see, has a big hole through it. These inserts go into the hole, and where the little line on the insert lines up on the arm is going to give you the location of your shock. So if A is at the inboard location, A, B, C would be in the C, and then D on the outside. It could be the other way around, I don't know, but you get the idea. Now, the same insert is 2 locations. If it's in the arm this way, we're in the C. Take it out, flip it 180. Now we're in the B. Same insert, 2 locations. And it comes with 2 different inserts to give you all 4 locations. So that's why that's done. Now, rear hubs. The rear hubs of the ProSC10, like the front caster block, there's no adjustment. We've got a fixed hole here where the pin goes through, and we've got 3 locations for the rear camber link. No roll center adjustment available on the hub. You would have to do your roll center adjusting with the ball stud and washers on the ball stud mount. Okay, so with the B74 hub that's on here, as you can see, we can adjust our roll center both on the hub and on the chassis brace or ball stud mount. The other thing that these hubs offer us, and this is actually a SC6.1 hub, B64 hub, T6.1 hub. The hub is used in a couple of different cars. But look at that big gaping hole, and look at this single hole for a pin. So what that gaping hole does is, like the caster block, it works with inserts. You put an insert in here, and then your pin goes Oops. And then your hinge pin goes into that insert. Now this one is the one they call 0 or 3. Again, it has to do with millimeters. So when we put the insert in this way, this raises the hub as high as possible in the arm. So you've got your rear suspension arm and you've got your hub, and this allows us to move the hub up and down. So indoors, high bite, we bring it all the way up. Outdoors, low bite, we bring it all the way down. And we do that by flipping the insert up or down, or changing to the 1 or 2 millimeter insert. So that's hubs, that's rear arms. That's what the parts do. I think that's it, guys. So that should help to explain a bit more in detail why I replaced the parts and what those parts do. So this adds an extra dimension of adjustability to this truck that it didn't have out of the box. So for our tracks, right off the bat, I've got a huge advantage of running a rear motor vehicle, because the rear motor is going to put a lot of the weight bias at the back. It's going to, just by nature of being a rear motor vehicle, it's going to provide mechanical grip. All these other things that I've put on the vehicle will help me adjust mechanical grip, so adjusting the car in ways that will help it generate grip when the track is not. Roll center adjustment, for side bite, rear axle, height up and down for rear traction. Oh, another one. Speaking of rear hubs, look at these spacers back here. Again with the wheelbase. You can run your hub in 3 different locations. 2 spacers in the back moves it all the way forward, shortening the wheelbase, adding traction. If the grip is high that day, which I doubt it will be, I can run the hub in the center with 1 shim in the front, 1 shim in the back. And then on my indoor cars, depending on which car they are, I often run the hub all the way back with the shims in the front. So yet another adjustment that I have now that I switched over to the 6 series parts that I did not have in the 5 series parts. So because I have the attention span of a squirrel and the memory of a goldfish, I'm no doubt forgetting something. But again, hey, last video generated some conversation and a few questions. So I'm happy to do a follow-up to explain what the parts do that I put on the truck and how they will help the truck be better than it was as a box stock. Shout out to all the guys in the province who help me on a regular basis. I couldn't have done this project without any of you. You guys know who you are. I don't want to name names because I don't want to forget anybody or, get anybody in trouble for sharing trade secrets. Just kidding. There's nothing that I'm doing here that you can't learn by reading your manual. I've been guilty myself recently of making a mistake because I didn't read my manual. I cannot, if you're a newbie, which I still am, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of reading your manual. So much of the setup information is explained for you in the manual. So take the time to read that manual, learn the correct terminology when you're talking to other racers. You're, speaking the same language, the language of the manual, and then get out there and drive. All of this setup knowledge doesn't mean a thing if you can't keep the rubber side down. So it's nice to know how to adjust your car, but really at this point I still need to learn to drive in the worst way. I've got good setups on some of my cars, and I'm routinely beat by guys that have roached out ball diffs that bark, on carpet, getting beat by rear motor cars. Like when I've got a Baller B6.2 all set up like it's on rails, and somebody shows up with a rear motor car that is a dirt setup with carpet tires and beats you. That's driving, kids. That's what that is. You need more track time, and you need to make the most of your track time. So learning as I go, having fun doing it, and hope this helped. Anyone considering a Pro SC10, I think it's still a viable choice, especially if you run a natural dirt tracks. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.